as you can imagine, pretty important for a piano lesson, wouldn't you say? Just kind of looking through here, gonna see, make sure the stream starts okay. In the meantime, let's get some chat in here and see what happens exactly. So we got Fanny back once again. Fanny says, "Hi Tim, hi everybody. I'm all eyes and ears for today's lesson. Great. Have been striving recently with trills and would like to know more about the different patterns." All right, it looks like it's starting okay. I'm just going to read the couple questions and then we'll get on to it. Filthy Will says, "Hey, happy Friday. Happy Friday, Filthy Will. Glad to have you with us once again, of course." We got Laredo back once again. "Good evening, Tim and fellow students. I trust that you are all well. Yippee, I just made it to the lesson on time. It is always great to join you all." And then we've got Lemon Drop. "I believe you're a new Lemon Drop. Welcome. Glad to have you." All right, it looks like we're okay. Yeah, I think we're good to go. If something ever doesn't look right, just let me know in the comments, and I will try to fix it. But we should be good to go. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the Facebook stream. It should take less than a minute. In the meantime, feel free to say hello in the chat. But if not, I'm just going to get started here. So just give me less than a minute. It'll probably actually be like 15 seconds or so. Hello students, it's your piano teacher Tim here from Piano Lessons on the Web. Welcome to our classroom. If it's your first time watching, if you're watching on Facebook, make sure you like our page because you'll get notified when we come out with new stuff. And the same reason on YouTube, just make sure you subscribe. That's not the thumbs up, the subscribe button, the red button, and you turn on all notifications by hitting that bell because you want to get notified when new lessons come out, which is at least twice a week. So we meet Fridays, Sundays, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're ever interested in joining us live, you can join us live on the Facebook page, facebook.com/lessonsontheweb, or youtube.com/lessonsontheweb at the start time. All right, we're going to get started here. Let me take a sip of water before we begin. All right, ready to go. Just let me bring up my notes, which are already up pretty much. Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. One of the most basic and critical skills you're going to need to play piano is reading music. Well, today I'm going to teach you everything you need to know from the beginning, even the more advanced techniques. So this has been your piano teacher, Tim, here, and today it's everything you need to know about reading music. Let me just try that again. I mean, that was an okay intro, but always like to get possibly another one. One of the most basic and critical skills you're going to need to play the piano is how to read music. Well, your piano teacher, Tim, has you covered here because today I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know about reading music from the beginning. Let's get it. All right, I think that one was a little bit better, but it's up to my editor. All right, here we go. Let me get one thing up here. It's pretty much already up. Okay, sorry about this. I'm almost there. Slight oversight. Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, here we go. All right. So the first thing you need to know about learning to read music is learning about the staff, the lines and spaces on each staff. So let me show you exactly what I'm talking about here. Okay, so taking a look here, so you see that they have these two things, these two symbols here. We have the treble clef right there and the bass clef right there. Now the treble clef, the top one, 99% of the time or so, you're going to be playing with your right hand. They're going to be the notes that are higher up on the keyboard, specifically basically from middle C up that way. Bass clef generally from middle C down that way. And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense, since when you sit at the keyboard, your right hand's going to be over here, the left hand's going to be over there. On each staff, we're going to be taking a look at the treble clef here. There are two staves together. They are called the grand staff. But on the top staff here, the treble clef, we have a staff is always made up of 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can have a note on each of those lines, or you can have notes on spaces. And there are 4 of those. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, depending on which line or space a note falls under, it's going to tell you what note to play, either A, B, C, D, E, F, or G, but it's also going to show you on the piano where to play that note. For instance, if I had a note right there, that specifically on that second line would be right here on the piano, and don't you worry, I'm going to teach you how you figure that out. So let's get started. Okay, what I recommend you do is memorize the lines and spaces for each clef from the bottom to the top. You always want to be counting from this bottom one to the top, because if you do it the other way, you're going to get it backwards and get it wrong, most importantly. So let's take a look here. So here you go. This is what I want you to do. So the bottom line is E. The next line up is G. The next line up is B. The next one up from there is D. And then finally you have F at the top. Now what I recommend you do is assign a saying to this where each of the first letters of the saying correspond to each of the notes. So I always like to use this phrase, and that phrase is, I'll just let my editor edit this in. This phrase is every, so E for every, good, next line up, boy, that middle line, deserves, the next line up, and then fries or fudge or whatever word that you can think of that has an F in it. So every good boy deserves fudge. Next, I want you to memorize the spaces. The spaces are F, A, C, E. And actually, I should be drawing the line on that side. So F, A, C, E, G. Do we need a saying for this one? Well, not really, right? Because it spells the word face. So let's take a look here. So F, A, C, E, face. So what were they again on the lines? It was every good boy deserves fries or fudge. And then the spaces were F, A, C, E. And now do you count from the top to the bottom? No, you count from the bottom to the top. So let's practice just a few of these so you get the idea. I am going to link you to a playlist at the end to give you more practice with all this stuff, because there is a lot to move through. So if I have a note right here on that top space, or bottom space, sorry, what note is that going to be? Well, it's spaces, right? And that spells the word face. So what's the first letter in face? Well, that is F. Now we're going to talk about where on the keyboard that is pretty much in a second. Actually, I'm just going to show you right now. So this F specifically is right there, right above middle C. Like I said, the notes you're working with the treble clef are from middle C up here. So this is the first F you have right here. Let's move the note down one, see what happens. So I move the note down one on the staff. It also moves the note down one on the keyboard. Makes sense? So if you have F here, well, this one down is going to be E. Or you could have used the saying, every good boy deserves fries, with E being right there. So that's the first E above middle C. So wait a second. How come treble clefs from middle C up here if it's not on the staff? Well, they add these things, we're going to talk about this later in the lesson, called ledger lines. So this is actually where the first note in the treble clef is outside the staff. So you are going to see notes here, here. You can find a couple below middle C, but pretty much from middle C up into the staff and then beyond. Okay, so if that's middle C right here, then this note right here is going to be one up from there. It's going to be D. And that's why this first E is right here, because you're counting up from middle C right there. Okay, let's do a couple more of these. How about if I move the note to here? Well, that's the third space up on the treble clef, so that's C. That's the third letter in face. And is it going to be right here? This is middle C, by the way. Well, no, right? Because middle C had to be on that ledger line. So if I have the ledger line right here with C on it, and this note's way up here, well, you can see the big gap there on the sheet music. That gap is also going to exist on the piano. So it's the next C, what we call an octave above, meaning it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 notes above. All right, one more for the treble clef. We'll go right onto the bass clef. How about if I have a note all the way at the top? Well, that's the top line. So what's the saying? Every good boy deserves fries. So right here is where that one's going to be. And if you think about it, it can't be here, remember, because that's where the first space is. And if you think about it, that's a lot closer to middle C, right there. But then the top two notes here, they're much further apart. So that's kind of how you can judge, you know, basically how high up the keyboard or low on the keyboard you're going to be going for these. And don't you worry, it gets a lot easier. You'll start to pick it up and understand a lot easier as you go. Let's talk about the bass clef now. Now, unfortunately for us and all students, the treble clef and bass clef do not match. So the lines of the bass clef are going to be different than the treble clef. Spaces, same thing. So the first thing you want to do is memorize the lines of the bass clef. And those are going to be good. Sorry. And those are going to be great big dogs fight animals. You can actually use a bunch of different ones for this, but that's what I do. So G for great, B for big, D for dogs, F for fight, and A for animals. Next, you want to memorize the spaces. So now we got a space here, space, space, space. The spaces from the bottom to the top are all cows eat grass. Then it works the exact same way as the treble clef. Okay, let's practice here. What if I have a note all the way at the top of the staff? Well, that note, let's see, what was the saying? Great big dogs fight animals, so that's A for animals. Now, where on the keyboard, now here's the question, where on the keyboard is this A? Well, here's the thing you got to keep in mind. You got to ask your first question. Since I said middle C and down is the bass clef, where is middle C? Well, let me show you. Because remember on the treble clef, it was right there. So on the bass clef, because the bass clef goes from up here to down, middle C is actually going to be right there. It's on a ledger line, first ledger line right above the staff. So these two notes right here, even though they look different on the staff, are exactly the same note. So, therefore, let me get rid of that treble clef note. You move this down one. That moves you down to B. And that's why when you move down to this A, that A, let me show you a little bit better there. That A is right there. Okay, let's do another one. How about right here? Well, that's great big dogs, right? Now, where is that D? Is this D right here? No, it can't be, since middle C is right here. And we're working our way down this one. So logically, the first D that takes place, below middle C anyway, is right there. And if you look on the sheet music, they are pretty far apart, and they're pretty far apart on the piano as well. Okay, what about this note? Well, now we're switching sayings, right? All cows eat grass. So this is an A. Is it right here? No, because remember, that was this A. This one is quite a bit further down. It happens to be an octave down once again, so it's going to be a whole A down that way. Last one of the bass clef, and then we'll move on to something a little bit more advanced. You have the bottom line, that's going to be G for great. Now, how far away is that from middle C? Well, that's quite a ways, right? So it's really unlikely that the G we're talking about is right here, because that's only 4 notes away. That would actually happen to be right there on the staff. This is a whole other octave down that way. So just keep in mind that when you're at the bottom of the bass clef, you're not anywhere near the middle. You're actually quite a bit down there, since the bass clef actually goes up towards middle C, whereas the treble clef goes from middle C on the bottom up there, just like that. All right, let's move on to our next secret topic. Okay, so before we move on, I just want to check in with the chat really quick, make sure everything is good, the I's are dotted, things like that. Hello. Okay, it looks like everything's good. Perfect. So thanks everybody. We are gonna move right along here. Perfect. Let me do this. This is why I take notes or bring notes with me. Let me get you this here. So how in the world should you be practicing your lines and spaces for each clef? Well, you can get a piece of sheet music and kind of look through them and maybe label them. That's a pretty good practice. You can also use some flashcards you can find on Amazon, but there's a free way to do it, both online and on your phone. I want to point you to musictheory.net/exercises/note. Hopefully I will remember to put that in the description. So here you go, but you can type it in if you need to. So here you go. This is pretty much exactly what we did. Now the thing is that you want to hit this icon up here, and you want to move the notes to the ones we talked about. So if you want to practice treble clef and bass clef, click on grand staff. Next, I recommend you start with notes on the staff. So, that's the bass clef one. There you go. And then move that down, and that shows you the range of the notes it's going to be testing you on. It doesn't make sense to test notes that you really haven't practiced or you really don't know the theory behind. So when you first start out with these, start with something simpler so that you can grab a hold of it a little bit easier rather than confusing yourself. Key signatures, that's fine. And then I think we're good. All right, cool. So here we go. So, fourth line up on the treble clef, that is D. And then what I recommend, it doesn't have you do it on here, but I recommend you also find them on the staff just the way we did. Might take a little bit longer, but hey, that is how you're going to get really good at these. I recommend you spend maybe 10 minutes a day on this, and probably over a month, you're going to be really, really, really good at reading notes on the staff. Okay, now on to our secret topic. That's not so secret. All right, here we go. Okay, one way to get way better at reading music and read music way, way faster is by using what's called intervals. Now, before I teach you about this, it's really important to keep in mind that you want to be practicing the notes on the staff just the way we did in part 1 here for a while and get used to that before adding this on top. This is really after you've accomplished that already. So taking a look here, I'm going to explain what an interval is. Actually, let me bring it to the piano. An interval is the distance between 2 notes. So that's an interval. That's an interval. That's an interval. That's an interval. So I think you get the idea. And intervals go from second up to octave and beyond. So let me show you what I mean. So if you have a note and the very next note, that's what's called a second. They're just 1, 2 away from each other. If you have a note, you skip a note, you have that note, that's what's called a third. You go 1 more up, that's a fourth. They're 4 notes away. 5, same reason. I think you get the idea. 6, 7th, and then that's why I said octave and beyond, because this is where the octave is. And then you can even have, which is 8 by the way, and then you even have 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. I highly recommend you at least know up to an octave, maybe even 9 and 10, 11, things like that, but at least start practicing up to an octave. Now let me show you exactly how this is going to help you out. All right, let's take our treble clef here, and let me write 2 notes here. Now, I can read those 2 notes individually, which because there's 2 of them isn't too hard. So I know the bottom line's E And then that next line up is G, you know, every good, just along with our saying. So you can hit E, you can hit G. Now, if you notice, that took a while, even though I knew it right away, it took a while for me to get there. What's a lot faster is looking on the sheet music and determining how far apart these intervals are. And because I know my intervals so well, I'm going to walk you through them. I know that that's a third right away. So I really only need to read that bottom note, E, and just know that that's a third away. It gets more and more useful the more notes you have. So let me walk you through all the intervals on the sheet music here. So seconds are so close together that they actually go side by side, you know, once you get there. So that's the only one like that. Then you have a third. That looks like a stacked snowman. So you just have a line, a line. You can also have them go from space to space. It doesn't really matter so long as they have that even stacking right there. Let me bring it back to where we were at. All right, what if I move this one up? Well, since the other one was a third, this has to be a fourth. So E to A. So they won't match. You have a line and then a space with maybe like a little bit of a space in between here. And that doesn't matter where it happens on the piano. You can start with a space down here, and the top one will be a line. But they're not too far up. Like that would be a sixth, that would be an eighth. So there's a fourth right there with just a little bit of a gap in there. Okay, fifth is when you basically have a snowman without a middle. So you basically have a space, no space, and then another space. Well, what if it falls under a line? Well, like I said, it doesn't really matter. It's still a fifth. So you have line, no line, and then another line. So there is number 5. Let me show you number 6 here. Number 6 is just one more past that, so they won't match. So if the bottom one's a line, top one will be a space. Bottom one's a space. Top one will be a line. Quite a mouthful. So you notice that there's a much bigger gap here than there was with a fourth, because a fourth was down there. Maybe I should draw it a little bit higher up here. Whereas a sixth would be up there. It's easy to get sixth and fourths mixed up. You'll get the hang of it. All right, seventh is when you move up one more. So you basically have line, no line, no line, and then another line. Same thing if it starts on the space. You'd have space, no space, no space, and then another space. And then the last one I'm going to go over with you right now is the octave, the king of all intervals. So you got E on the bottom, E on the top, so the octave will always match, obviously. But the notes in terms of lines and spaces do not match. For instance, you have a line on the bottom, top note will be a space, and then vice versa. And if you notice, the gap here is quite large. It's much larger than it was at a sixth, which was right here, or a fourth, which was right there. So a quick tip for you is that all even intervals don't match. So that's seconds, fourths, sixths, and octaves. So here you go. And what I mean by don't match is that if the bottom one's a line, the other one will use space, and vice versa. So you know that that's an even number interval. You know that that's an even number interval because line, space. You know that that's an even number interval. What about that one? That one is actually going to be an odd number interval. So odd number intervals, they do match. So if you have a line here, the other one's going to be a line. So odd, 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 and they got even, 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 and even, just like that. Okay, let me show you a quick practice example here on the staff and on the keyboard to make sure that we got the concept. Okay, I have 3 notes here. Like I said, this technique is great for many notes at the same time. So I can read these notes individually. Okay, that's an F, that's the next space A, and then the last one is an E. So that takes a little bit of a while, but what I can do is I can just play the bottom note, F, and then I see that that's the beginning of a stacked snowman. They match, so that's an odd number interval. That's going to be a third. And then you have a fifth, and then a seventh up here, because you can see that the fifth would be right here, but it's absent. So you got the first note, then a third up, and then a fifth up basically from that A there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I can do it really quick. Let me do one on my own really quick, because as I explain them, it takes more time. But let me do one like kind of complicated here, and then once I play it, I'll walk you through it. It's probably going to be a terrible sounding thing, but here we go. Okay, so you got the bottom note F. That you can see that second right away on the bottom. And then you can see between those two middle notes, the G and the B, that's a third evenly stacked. And then from the B up to the F is clearly a fifth, which I can't play with one hand. So there you go. I could read them so much faster than going, okay, F, and then, okay, what's the saying for the next one, so on and so forth. But like I said, you do want to get used to doing the sayings at first, and then build up to this technique. Okay, let me bring up my notes. Make sure I didn't forget about anything. Wait, what? Oh, weird. I must have hit the wrong key. Sorry about that. Just making sure I didn't forget anything, that's all. Remind me later. Okay, I think we're good. I do want to show you how to practice intervals, though. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to practice these intervals. So let's take a look. I got another website for you. That's musictheory.net again, /exercises/interval. And you can also find apps on your phone for this as well. Again, you want to go up to the little gear at the top. You want to select, something that you're going to be familiar with, like the range. You don't want to be using, you don't want to like have quality in there yet. We didn't talk about that today. Intervals 7 is pretty good. I think that's as like high up as they go. And then once you get advanced, you can go up to 15. But for right now, 1 through 7 is perfect. So I think we're ready to start here. So let's see what this first one is. Okay, so here's the thing is that this is on a ledger line way down there, and I might not know that note. So what I would do is I would read this top note instead, assuming that I'm a beginner, practicing, notes on the staff first. So this first note is F clearly, because that's the first space of the treble clef. And then you don't have a, there's an empty space there, and then there's another space. So if the top note's on a space, bottom note's on a space, is it going to be an even number interval or an odd number interval? Well, if they match, it's actually an odd number interval. It can kind of be opposite of what you might think. So, and I know right away that this is a fifth, so going to the piano, I have my F up here. You're gonna, if you skip a note down here, that's a third, and then skip another one, there's your fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just sounds just lovely. So I'm gonna click fifth. And hey, that was the right answer. It glowed green. What about these two? You got an F on the bottom, and you basically have a note on the top. So you have a space and then a line. They do not match, so that's an even number interval, and that one is a fourth. I'm just going to do 2 more here. Oh, that's the fifth again, the same one. And then this one, this one should be easy. This one is the stacked snowman, evenly stacked. That's a third. So go through and practice these. Once you learn how to read the notes on the staff and you feel proficient at that, then branch out to this and practice this for 10 minutes a day, maybe in place of the note reading. Now the thing is after you start practicing this, if you start feeling like you don't have the notes memorized anymore on the staff, go back and practice the other exercise I did with reading the notes separately. Okay, I need a drink of water, clearly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the chat up here really quick. Just make sure everything's still working well. Let me take a drink here, and then we're going to get started with the rest of the lesson. Learning intervals will really improve your skills. I agree. Like probably one of the most important tips I can give you on the channel, for sure. A shortcut. Been trying to donate through Super Chat, but PayPal is acting like an a-hole. Maybe next time. Thanks for the lessons. Well, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with PayPal. You can also sign up for courses over on my website if you want piano lessons on the web. Now's a great time to do it because it's the fall sale. You're going to get a good discount. And also, I'm going to bring this up later, but use code YouTube during checkout. You're going to get an additional 15% off. So it's almost like a double discount kind of thing. But I only show that, I throw that little discount code out there for people who attend this live stream. Okay, perfect. All right, we're going to get moving on. There's more. There's more. I'm trying to think, what is that from? Anyway, not important. Okay, here we go. I mentioned earlier in the lesson about ledger lines, the notes that go up and below the staff. So let's talk about that, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to master those. This is something you should practice after you practice notes on the staff, after you practice intervals, because the intervals will actually help you read the ledger lines. Let's take a look. Okay, so I mentioned before we have the bottom note E here. You move this down, you got C, there's middle C. And then it's like, all right, well, what happens when the notes get really, really low? What do I do? How do I figure that out? Well, there are a couple of ways. So here's what I'm going to do. So this note's E. And then keep in mind, like every time you go down a line, you're going down 2 notes. So here's D, here's C, right? So we went from line to line. So E to C. Then if you go down 2 more notes, that's down to A. So you have E, C, A. And then you have an F right here. So let me write these notes out for us and see if we can pick up a pattern. Okay, so these 4 notes from the bottom to the top, I'm going to tell you right now, are F, A, C, E, G. Doesn't that sound familiar? It kind of does, right? F-A-C-E spells face. Doesn't that sound perhaps like the spaces of the treble clef right here? So F, A, C, E. So there's, no, that's not what I want to do. So there's a clear pattern here. And that pattern is that the lines going down are the spaces going up pretty much like in reverse. You're actually starting from here now. E, C, A, F, and then coming back down here. What is going on with this thing? There you go. And going on over here is E, C, A, F, or F, A, C, E. Just keep in mind that you're going backwards. So the lines going down off of the staff match the spaces on the staff. Okay, let me do this, guys. There we go. Okay, let me make sure I'm ready with all this F, T. Here we go. Okay, so now we have these 4 notes. Let's see if we notice a pattern. I'm going to give you what they are, and we're going to figure out if we notice anything familiar. So these lines are E, or spaces, sorry. E, G, B, D, and then we have our first space on the treble clef, F. E, G, B, D, F, G. Doesn't that sound like the lines of the treble clef? Let me move these to the lines. E, G, B, D, and then there would be one here at the top, which would be F. So therefore, the spaces going down off the staff match the lines on the staff. You just have to keep in mind that when you're counting down from the top space down, you're basically going to be doing it in reverse. So it's not E, G, B, D, F. It's F, D, B, G, and then E. You might have to do a little bit of thinking there. Or what you can do is you can do this. You can write it above B, I mean, like above somewhere. You don't have to write it above every note. And just so now you know it backwards. So F, and then D, B, G, and then E. Just like that. Of course, these will take some practice. It's not something that you're going to get super good at right away. All right. Hold on, everybody. All right, I think that's good for that. Sorry for swore. Sorry about that. I just don't know why it's not doing it. Technology. I love it, and I love it some more. Here we go. I don't know. For some reason, it won't let me do it. Here we go. Okay, so now we have the spaces going up off the staff. Now, let's see if these look familiar. You have F up here. Next one's A, C, E. So the lines going up off the staff are actually match the spaces on the staff. Kind of like we did before, but this time you're actually going in order because now you have, going up. You got F, A, C, E. And then probably, as you can imagine, doing the spaces from the top space coming up off the staff, it's going to match, what do you think? Probably the lines, right? Let's see if that checks out. And sure enough, we got E, G, B, D, and if I had one more up here, that would be F. So sure, that matches. So spaces going up match the lines on the staff. So it's kind of reversed, and that's one way you can look at it. It works this same way with the bass clef. So just apply the same way with the bass clef. Let me now teach you how to do this with intervals. Actually, let me do. Let me get a drink. It's freaking hot in here. Sorry, the lights get me. Okay. Now let me show you how to do this technique with the intervals that we just talked about. I'm wondering, a note to my editor, I want to know what you think. It's up to you, Carrie, whether you want to put this last section that I just did in there where we match up the lines or spaces, or I'm thinking maybe we want to cut that out. Maybe. It depends what you feel like if this adds to the lesson. But I'm thinking about maybe cutting that little part out and then maybe just moving here to using the intervals to reading the notes off the staff, if that makes any sense. Let me know if you have any questions about that. I think it could go either way. Depends on how long, like if the lesson looks like it's going to be super long, which looks like it is. It's 1:40 already. So maybe we'll cut out that last part. Sorry about that. Sorry if you already edited it. But I think we might cut that, because I feel like this next method is actually a lot better. Oh, come on. Okay. Okay, let's take a look at some notes coming up off the staff in the ledger line. So this is where the intervals are really, really going to come into play, because you can use them to your advantage. Let me show you what I mean here. Okay, so we have these four notes. You know what that bottom note is probably. That note, of course, is going to be F, because, right, every good boy deserves fries. And then take a look at these two notes. So F, and then you have this note right next to it, like that. That's going to be a second, right? They don't match, and they're real close to each other. So second. So a second on the keyboard right next to each other. So you got F, and then the second note is G. Let's take a look between the second note and then that third note. So we have space and then another space. Well, hey, that's got to be an odd number interval, and they're still pretty close. So that's going to be a third. So you have F, G, B, and then another third between those last two. So you can use your intervals. This is why I told you to practice them to read notes much, much faster, even up off the staff. Let's do another, let's go down below the staff, actually, see how intervals may be able to help us figure these out. So now we have these four notes. You probably know the first note's F, first space of the treble clef. You're going down a third on that next one because it's space to space. And then you got these two notes from D to middle C. I already taught you about that one pretty good, so they're a second away. And then let's take a look between these last two notes, which is going to be the trickiest. So if I just write this C right here, you can see that you have a line. You have a line that's empty, or so line, no line, and then a line. I said earlier that that is a fifth, and that is correct. So what you do is you play C, and then you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can figure out right away that that note is F. Okay, taking a look at the bass clef, we're just going to practice a few of these. So let's take a look. I'm going to draw four notes. We'll figure out what they are coming up off the staff. So here are our four notes. We got the top line of the bass clef. That's going to be A, as you probably know. And then you got a line and then a space. So is that an odd number interval or an even? Well, that's even, right? Because they don't match. Now, a second would be right there. This one's a little bit higher up than that. So we're talking about a fourth. So you can count up 4 on your keyboard. 1, 2, 3, 4. So our next note's D. So between the middle two notes there, you got D, and then the mystery note here. Well, that's right next to each other, right? So that's just going to be a second above. You know that that's E. And then let's take a look here. You got the last note there, the first space above the staff. So those don't match. We're talking about an even number interval. They're a little bit further away, so now I know that that one is B. So the notes are A, D, E, B. Now, how should you practice your ledger lines? Well, go back to the first note reading exercise I gave you today, because that one you just changed the settings to work on ledger lines. Let me just really quick show you how to do that, just so you're not confused. Okay. Here you go. Okay, taking a look here on the note exercise. So it's the same exercise, musictheory.net/exercises/notes. But you click on the gear here, and what you want to do is you want to click on range and change that range to include notes that are on those ledger lines, and that's going to give you, some pretty good practice on those. All right. All right, just kind of reading some comments here. All right, we're going to continue here. I've been talking for a long time. This is going to be a long lesson. Let's see. Wait, give me a second here. Here we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like a little bit of an outro here. This is so when I piece the lesson together, or my editor does, it just makes sense. So I'm not ending the live stream right now necessarily. I'm just going to do the outro so we piece together the video. All right. To get an even better understanding of reading music intervals and all the things we talked about today, make sure you check out this playlist right here to learn more all about it. So it's been your piano teacher, Tim, here. Thank you so much for coming by, and I'll see you, yes, you, in the next lesson. All right, guys, gals. All right, so Lemon Drop, Piano Girl, and Mashish have been talking away. Not that I mind, but just scrolling through here. Okay, so Filthy Will's talking about the courses, I think. Yeah, so if you guys, it looks like some of you were talking about like learning piano like online and how sometimes when you get started, it can be difficult to figure out where to go next and what to do next. Well, I have the solution just for you. Let me get it up here. Just give me a second here. So over on my website, pianolessonsontheweb.com, I have over 20 courses designed to help you learn a lot more about not just piano, but like music theory, improvisation, rhythm, ear training, and of course more. Anything you would need to become a well-rounded musician. And they are very structured. So I'm going to work you through. If you take like the first course, you're going to go through that. You know, and there's 5 units, units 1 through 5. So it's very like sequential on what you need to do and what you need to learn. And actually, if you click on the music courses page specifically, there's actually a couple areas this tells you about. It shows you the order in which you should take the courses. So you just do them as listed. Intro, read music, level 1, piano level 1, music theory level 1, and so forth. So back to the home page here. I really want to tell you about this right now because there's a fall sale going now until October 10th, so you don't want to miss out. You can read more about what my courses can offer for you. And one more thing I'm going to tell you is what I recommend you do is buy courses in the course packages because you're going to get a much better deal and it's just easier to follow. So for instance, the beginner's pack has 4 courses in the pack. Normally courses are $29.99 a piece, so this is quite a deal, especially on sale. You can click on any of the courses that you want to learn more about and it'll give you a course description, sample lesson, how long it's going to take you to do the course, the songs you're going to learn, pretty important I would say, and what you're going to be learning there. Same thing goes with the intermediate pack and the advanced pack. However, there are a lot more courses involved. That's why they are more expensive, but they will keep you busy and learning for quite a while. Same thing with this one. You want to learn more about a course, click on it. So satisfaction guarantee. So you're going to get a full refund if you request one within 30 days. It's just simple as emailing me. Last thing I want to tell you about is that if you use code YouTube during checkout, it's going to be in this little add coupon code thing here, and you type in YouTube, it's going to give you an additional 15% off. So you're going to be getting like a double discount. So just remember to use that code YouTube during checkout and you'll get it. So go to pianolessonsontheweb.com, check it out. Don't wait, because if you're anything like me, you're going to wait and then October 10th is going to come and pass you by and you're going to be kicking yourself, which you don't want to do. It's also a great way to support both your own music education and the channel at the same time. All right, guys, my voice is or my throat is getting very dry from lots of talking today. This is a really long lesson. This is my favorite piano channel. Well, thank you so much, Piano Girl. Filthy Will says the chat is lit AF today. Very funny. All right, everybody. I think I'm gonna. Oh, well, let me walk you through like what we're gonna be talking about soon or on Sunday, because we will be meeting again on Sunday. Let me show you what we're gonna be doing. Okay, Sunday we're gonna be talking about how to identify chords by sight. And by the way, this is the community tab. You can find it on the top of my website here on the tab here. And this is going to have a calendar of what we're going to be talking about. So how to identify chords by sight. Now, there will be lessons, obviously, in October. I pretty much have them worked out what they're going to be. I will be posting those very, very soon and updating the page. You should do long lessons more often. Well, I'll do them like moderately often. Yes, I am ending soon, Megan, unfortunately. I like how he emphasizes learning notes rather than just chords. Yeah, exactly. Ending now any minute. Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah, I can't make every lesson super, super long because I do have an editor that has to edit these together, and that costs me quite a bit of money. So, another great reason to sign up for courses, I guess, help me keep things moving along. But I like to do a mix, like a shorter ones for a while and then longer ones, because they both perform kind of differently, and it's always good to kind of experiment with each one. Tomorrow will arrive Paul Harris books and scales and arpeggios book. Great, more than excited. Thanks for the advice, Tim. You're very welcome, Jamie. All right, everybody. Thanks for all the support. Thanks for coming by today. I can't get to every comment today just because there were so many. So I apologize if you had a question and I didn't get to it. Just keep attending these, and I'll get to your question eventually, I guess. So remember to leave a big fat like if you like the lesson. Helps other students know this is a quality lesson from. This is a quality lesson they can learn from as well. And yeah, so I will see you. Yeah, poor editor, exactly. Um, I'm sure he might mind and doesn't mind at the same time. Loretta says I find Tim's lessons extremely valuable. Thank you so much. Learning so fun. Grasping music theory, great. Thank you so much, Loretta, and everybody else. All right, everybody, I'm losing my voice, so I'll see you Sunday. Thank you so much for coming by today. It's been your piano teacher Tim here, and I'm gonna see you in the next lesson. All right, so long.